Reality doesn't make sense, and that's not poetry, it's a blunt fact. We wake up inside it every single day, we breathe it, touch it, suffer in it, dream through it. Yet the closer you look, the more it slips through your fingers. Think about it. We've mapped galaxies millions of light years away, yet we still can't explain why we have a single thought. We can predict the orbit of Jupiter with precision, but we can't explain why you feel pain when your heart is broken, or why a memory can make you cry years after it happened. How can something so intimate, so close, be more mysterious than the stars? That is the paradox of reality, the most obvious thing and the least understood. For most of history, people didn't question it. Reality was simply there. Rocks were hard because they were. The sun rose because it did. To ask why was foolish. Like asking why fire burns. But eventually cracks began to appear. A dream too vivid. A vision that felt more real than waking life. A philosopher who noticed that our senses lie. A scientist who discovered that what feels solid is mostly empty space. And the cracks spread. Today we stand in front of an abyss. On one side, the everyday world of objects and routines. On the other, a strange and layered mystery. Every culture, every thinker, every explorer of consciousness has stumbled on the same unsettling truth. Reality is not what it seems. But what is it then? Why do mystics insist the world is an illusion? Why do physicists claim time is relative? Why do your own senses betray you, inventing colors, filling blind spots, fabricating experiences out of nothing? The rabbit hole is deeper than you think. And if you dare to step beyond the surface, you'll discover that reality is not one thing at all. It comes in levels, 7 of them, each one stranger, more unstable, more dangerous to your certainty than the last. The journey begins with the most familiar, the world you think you know, the ordinary stage you walk on every morning. But look closer, and even that first level begins to shake. Every play begins with a stage. And for most of your life, you assume the stage is real. The ground beneath your feet, the air you breathe, the faces around you that smile, argue, or pass you by. It all feels unquestionable, solid, self-evident. But scratch just a little beneath the surface, and the stage begins to wobble. Take your senses. They're the only reason you believe the world is out there. And yet, they lie to you constantly. An optical illusion convinces your eyes that lines are bent when they are straight. A mirage paints water on the horizon, where there is only sand. Her phantom limb convinces an amputee that pain is shooting through a leg that no longer exists. Even something as innocent as colorblindness reveals the fracture. Two people can look at the same flower and live in completely different realities. Consensus, the agreement that this is the world, turns out to be less truth and more contract. An invisible pact between nervous systems. Let's all pretend we're seeing the same thing. But even this pact is fragile. Step into altered states, deep meditation, fever, trauma, psychedelics, and the mask slips further. Suddenly the real world wavers like scenery on a stage, and you catch a glimpse of the machinery behind the curtain. And then there are the cracks exposed not by mystics, but by scientists. Physics tells us that matter is almost entirely empty space. Biology shows us that our senses capture only a razor-thin slice of possible reality. Psychology demonstrates how easily memory, perception, and identity can be twisted, rewritten, fabricated. The result is uncomfortable. If the stage itself is unstable, then what is the play? And if the play is unstable, what does that say about the actor, you? These cracks are not errors, they are invitations, signs that the surface is not the whole story, that behind the painted walls of consensus lies something deeper, something stranger. And if you follow those cracks, you arrive at the first level, the most familiar, the most deceptively safe. Level 1, consensus reality. This is the world you wake up in every morning, the toothbrush waiting by the sink, the keys you leave by the door, the chair that will still be there when you come back. Everything feels reliable, predictable. Water is wet, tables are solid, pain is pain. This is level 1, consensus reality. The stage where human life begins and ends, the layer we rarely think to question. At first glance, it feels absolute. Objects stay where you left them. Boundaries remain intact. Everyone else seems to be navigating the same world in the same way you do, but push even slightly and the cracks show. Take illusions. Your eyes can be tricked into seeing motion where there is none, depth where there is flatness, faces in clouds that never existed. Take hallucinations. Entire voices and landscapes can bloom from nothing, convincing the mind that fiction is fact. Take memory. Yesterday's events can be rewritten in your head, altered without your consent, until you swear something happened that never did. Even the simplest detail, color, betrays us. Two people standing side by side may see two different shades, yet both are certain theirs is the truth. Consensus reality is not an objective truth. It is a stitched-together agreement. A silent handshake between billions of nervous systems. Yes, this is the world. Let's all pretend we see the same thing. But like a stage set in a theater, it is only convincing if you don't look too closely at the seams. And the seams are everywhere. In the way time can feel endless in suffering but vanish in joy. In the way dreams can blur into memory until you question which one was real. In the way entire societies can fracture when their shared consensus breaks. The surface is comfortable, but it is fragile. And when you begin to notice that fragility, a dangerous curiosity awakens. If this is only the stage, what lies behind the curtain? To find out, we step into the second level. Level 2, the realm of perception. At level 1, reality seemed like a shared contract, but at level 2, you discover something more unsettling. The world you think you see is not out there. It is in here. Your senses do not deliver reality directly. They deliver fragments, chaotic signals your brain must assemble into something that feels stable. Vision is the easiest example. Light strikes the retina, flips the image upside down, and sends it to the brain as electrical noise. What you actually see is not a raw picture of the world, but a reconstruction. Flipped, stitched together, gaps filled in, blind spots erased. And the mind edits it all like a film. Still frames are smoothed into motion. Blinks vanish. Magicians hide cards in plain sight because your brain doesn't just see, it guesses. It predicts. It fills in what it expects to be there. Time itself is not immune. What feels like a continuous flow is a sequence of discrete slices sewn together by the mind. Without this editing, every blink would break the world apart. Touch, taste, smell. None of them capture reality as it is. They capture the narrow range necessary for survival. Dogs hear what we can't. Bees see colors invisible to us. Birds navigate magnetic fields we don't even know exist. So what you experience is not the world. It is a user interface, a screen built by evolution. The philosopher Donald Hoffman called this the desktop interface of perception, just as a computer desktop hides the real machinery. Transistors, circuits, binary code. Your senses hide the truth of reality. You see icons, simplified shortcuts, useful but not accurate. This means something radical. The real reality, whatever it is, will always remain hidden from you. And if perception is only a reconstruction, then what you call real life is closer to a dream, stitched together second by second. The world is not what it seems, it is what your mind makes it seem. But if perception builds the world, what happens when collective perception becomes belief? When entire societies agree not just on what they see, but on what it means? That leads us to the third level. Level 3, the realm of belief. If perception is fragile, belief is fire. It does not simply interpret reality. It creates it. Think of money. Physically, it is nothing. Paper, ink, or flickering digits on a server. Yet it decides where you live, what you eat, how long you survive. The world obeys money not because of its material, but because of our collective agreement. Or consider borders. Look at Earth from orbit, and you'll see no lines carving the planet. But down here, those invisible boundaries can determine freedom or imprisonment, wealth or poverty, life or death. Even morality, our sense of good and evil, is shaped by belief. Cannibalism may be a horror in one society, but a sacred ritual in another. Honor may demand revenge in one culture and forgiveness in another. We live inside these invisible webs, Anthropologist Clifford Geertz called them webs of significance. We spin them, get tangled in them, pass them down like heirlooms. At this level, reality is no longer physical at all, yet it feels harder than stone. Wars are fought over flags, nations rise and collapse over myths, entire civilizations are steered by stories, but belief is fragile too. One society's sacred truth is another's laughable fiction. When competing realities collide, blood is spilled. That's the danger of level 3. When shared illusions harden into absolute truths, the clash between worlds becomes inevitable. And so, reality at this level is not something you just see, it is something you participate in, something you sustain. But if belief itself can build and destroy worlds, then what happens when we ask the deeper question, the one belief cannot answer? What lies beneath the symbols, beneath the myths, beneath the collective dream? Science tried to answer, and what it found shattered even the idea of stability. That's level 4, the realm of science. Science was supposed to steady the ground. It promised answers, order, certainty. But the deeper it dug, the stranger the world became. Take matter. The table beneath your hand feels solid, immovable. Yet zoom in and it dissolves into emptiness. Atoms are not tiny marbles packed together. They are ghostly clouds of probability surrounding a nucleus so small it could vanish into nothing. If an atom were the size of a stadium, its nucleus would be a grain of rice at the center. The electrons? Flecks buzzing at the edges. Everything else? Empty space. And yet you feel the table resisting your touch. Why? Because your atoms never truly touch its atoms. They repel each other with invisible electromagnetic force. Solidity is an illusion born of resistance. Time, too, refuses to stay stable. To the everyday mind, it flows like a river from past to future. But Einstein shattered that river. Time bends, it stretches. It runs faster for one traveler and slower for another. An astronaut orbiting Earth returns younger than the twin left on the ground. And this isn't speculation, it's measurable fact. Then comes quantum mechanics, the great destroyer of intuition. Here, particles do not exist in neat positions. They exist as probabilities, as smears of possibility. Only when you observe them do they collapse into something definite. As if reality itself refuses to take shape until you're looking. Even stranger, particles can be entangled, linked across vast distances, changing in perfect unison no matter how far apart. Einstein called it spooky action at a distance. At this level, the very act of observation becomes part of the machinery. Physicist John Wheeler said it plainly, "No phenomenon is a phenomenon until it is an observed phenomenon." Science, the great revealer, suddenly becomes the great destabilizer. Its microscopes and telescopes do not show us more stability. They show us that reality itself is provisional, slippery, and dreamlike. If consensus gave us comfort, and belief gave us power, science leaves us standing on nothing. And when you are standing on nothing, the next question becomes inevitable. What if there is no base reality at all? What if everything, matter, time, perception, even belief, is just code running in a deeper system? That's the next descent. Level 5, the simulation layer. If Level 4 dismantled the solidity of the world, Level 5 reimagines it entirely. Because here comes the most unsettling question of all. What if there is no base reality? Philosophers, futurists, even scientists whisper the possibility. If civilizations can one day create simulations indistinguishable from reality, then statistically, you are more likely to be inside one than outside. Think about it. One real world could spawn millions of simulations, each one populated with conscious beings who believe their world is the original. The odds that you are in the one true base reality, almost zero. Imagine it. Your memories, your emotions, your body, rendered in real time by code, the laws of physics, gravity, time, electromagnetism, not eternal truths, but the engine of the simulation. Every rule you live by, nothing more than software, and from inside you would never know. A character in a video game cannot perceive the gamer. A dream cannot realize it is being dreamed. Glitches could be dismissed as coincidences. anomalies patched by the system. Some take this literally, others see it as metaphor. Either way, the effect is the same. Reality begins to look like layers of code, rules upon rules, illusions stacked on illusions. If this is true, then everything you know, the pain you felt, the love you've known, the fears that shaped you, could be nothing more than lines of data. But here's the paradox. Whether or not it is real, you experience it as real. The tears still fall. The heart still breaks. The joy still lifts you higher. And that raises an even deeper question. If reality is a simulation, what lies beyond the program? If we are code, who or what is the coder? The answers, if they exist, are hidden. But human beings have always sensed that there is more, that the veil can be pierced not through technology, but through consciousness itself, which takes us into a realm older than science, older than philosophy. Level 6. Mystical reality. Long before microscopes and particle colliders, mystics across the world whispered the same truth. The world you see is not the real world. Hinduism called it Maya, the great illusion. Buddhism called it samsara, the endless cycle of appearances. The Gnostics called it a trap, a counterfeit world. Different names, same message. Everyday reality is a veil, and behind that veil lies something vast, infinite, and alive. Mystics, meditators, visionaries, all describe the same encounter. The walls of the self dissolve. Boundaries between body and world collapse. The breath, the floor, the sky, the stars, everything fuses into one seamless field of being. They speak of a light brighter than light, a presence more solid than matter, a clarity sharper than any waking perception. The writer Aldous Huxley called it the mind at large. Neuroscientists today describe it as the default mode network shutting down, the brain's storyteller silenced, allowing raw reality to flood in. Psychonauts describe it as more real than real, a shocking intensity of existence that no language can capture. And here lies the dilemma. If this state feels more real than waking life, which one is reality? Is the everyday world a dream, while unity is truth? Or is unity simply another altered state, a trick of chemistry? The consistency of these reports across cultures and centuries suggests something deeper, a hidden level that science has barely begun to glimpse. At level 6, reality is not something you live in, it is something you are. And everything else too. The self and the world, subject and object, collapse into a single, undivided whole. But even this level, radiant and overwhelming, is not the end. Because beyond unity, beyond illusion, beyond every experience, lies something you cannot touch, cannot speak, cannot imagine. The final descent. Level 7. The unknowable realm. At the final level, words fail. Every model collapses. Every belief fractures. Every explanation turns into silence. Call it the unknowable, the ineffable, the groundless ground. Here, philosophy runs out of language. Science admits ignorance. Spirituality falls back on metaphor. Because whatever reality is at its core, it is beyond thought, beyond measure, beyond grasp. The Tao Te Ching begins. The Tao that can be spoken is not the eternal Tao. The moment you name ultimate reality, you've already missed it. The map is not the territory. The word fire does not burn. The word water is never wet. At this level, reality is not something to be solved. It is the very medium in which questions arise. It is not the riddle. It is the silence behind the riddle. Maybe it is the hidden source of consciousness. Maybe it is the generator of universes. Maybe it is something forever inaccessible. But perhaps that's the deepest truth. Reality is not a destination. It is the act of being itself, inescapable, immediate, unanswerable. From consensus to perception, from belief to science, from simulation to mysticism, all these levels are lenses. Each one hides the next. Each one reveals and deceives at the same time. And the greatest paradox is this. Maybe reality is not one thing or 7 things. Maybe it is all of them at once. The solid, the illusory, the scientific, the mystical, the unspeakable, all layered together, each one both true and incomplete. which brings us back to where we began. The most familiar thing, and the least understood, the stage you walk on every morning and the abyss that swallows every answer. Reality doesn't make sense, but perhaps that is what makes it real. And if you feel the pull to keep questioning, to keep peeling back the layers, to keep walking deeper into the mystery, then join us. Subscribe to Alchemy of Mind. The journey has only just begun.